James Lindsay is a pretty famous libertarian who's also, of course, into alternative lifestyles.
Oh, Bill, Elijah Schaefer retweeted you today, and he didn't retweet me favorably. So I call up a good friend of mine. I'm like, who is this guy? And he goes, all you need to know is he got in a lot of trouble recently. Just do a Google search, see why he left the Blaze and so on and so forth. And just goes to show that, you know.
Yeah, he left the Blaze because a woman lied about him. That's why. A woman lied and said that she was by him and never presented really any evidence of that whatsoever. Named Sydney Watson. Right? That's what happened to him. So nice to see this propaganda, but Elijah Schaefer, I would like to see some definitive proof he actually did anything wrong rather than Sydney Watson whining because Nick Fuentes went on the stream one time and she cried about it to Blaze execs. Oh my God, trauma, and he was drinking sometimes when he was on the set. That was the best part about going down to his studio. Best part about going down to Elijah Schaefer's studio was the very first thing he did was say, "What's your drink of choice, Mr. Wilson?" And I said, well, that's awful nice of you to ask, Mr. Schaefer. I would love a vodka and soda. And he was like, we'll get right on that. And up he served one immediately. Very nice of the guy.
Some people have a lot of influence in a very narrow echo chamber. But what I want to do is I want to respond a little bit to what he has to say here and engage some of these concepts. So let's just turn to this very quickly here. So we look at this issue and we ask this question, what is the woke right? Now, some of you might be asking yourself, what in the world is this little picture that I've put up there? Well, this comes from, I think it's Pepe the Frog. And what's interesting is that all of
like these right-wing idiots are like, you know, I don't know, 10 years behind on. Oh man, where's the, this isn't good. I want to see. I don't give a shit about this guy spurging out about some stupid cartoon frog. I want to watch Lindsay.
Matt Walsh says children is evil. Jack Prosobiec calls for Christian men to build families, lead their communities, and defend their nation.
I argue with this guy sometimes on Twitter. He seems like a fun guy.
Thousands of young conservatives are rejecting drag culture, open borders, and the death spiral of liberal democracy.
At least I think I argue with him sometimes on Twitter. I'm pretty confident I do. Isn't it like something ministries or some shit?
And now, all of a sudden, they're being called woke. James Lindsay, an atheist, once co-belligerent against the excesses of the left, is sounding the alarm. Not against Antifa, and not against the left, but actually against the right itself. See, in his eyes, anyone who speaks in terms of collective identity, national destiny, or religious authority has gone off the rails. He's adopted the phrase woke right to describe these people. But let's be clear. These men are not dressing up Marxist categories in red, white, and blue, and they're not crying victim while their group identity is simultaneously being advantaged. They're not co-opting oppressive narratives falsely. Instead, they're simply rejecting a hollow system that tells Christians to keep quiet, to keep their faith private, and to keep the public square morally sterile. The people being called woke right are those saying enough is enough. They're done pretending that Drag Queen Story Hour is a constitutional blessing. They're done pretending that open borders are a civic virtue. And they're done pretending that America can survive without a spine or even a soul.
The teleprompter has told me a lot of words here to say. I wrote them earlier, and I practiced this cadence because it sounds very official-like. And when things sound official-like, you can officially believe everything that I'm officially saying. Now, over to... when he drops the cadence, I got a feeling he's going to be like 10 times less annoying.
We're going to be talking about James Lindsay and Jordan Peterstein. The two of them, Jordan Peterstein. Stein, I think, is a...
Okay. That was funny. That was a good redeemer. Okay, that was a good redeemer. It was a good redeemer. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm actually looking for the debate itself. Okay, there. Let's take a look. All right.
So, what are you in trouble for now? The woke right. It's a fraught term, right? Because you have woke, which they...
For that. Nice to see you, Dr. Lindsay.
It's good to see you,
It's
Dr.
been
Peters.
2 years, eh?
It's been 2 years.
Yeah. So, what do
One day I'll be in that chair and I'll be like, nice to see you, Dr. Palpatine. And I'll be like, yes, it's nice to be here, Mr. Peterson. After seeing you on Stein and Crowder, can I ask a favor? In the resurrection, please find me so I can drink my first beer with you. Yeah, that'd be cool.
are you in trouble for now?
The woke right.
Lay it out, man.
It's a fraught term, right? People see it as paradoxical because you have woke, which they with left, you have right, which they obviously with the right. And so now you've got a paradox. And so I've caused myself some trouble by calling a radical segment, not the whole right, a radical segment of the right, woke right, which I kind of started doing, I guess, last fall,
Yeah.
September. I started using it before that, the term. I didn't invent the term. A lot of people accuse me of inventing the term or credit me with it. This term has been in rough circulation, floating around in the internet space for at least since middle of 22. So it's not a brand new term. I just adopted it and went kind of hard about it. And the simplest explanation I give people for, well, what do you mean by woke right? How does that make sense? And I say, well, it's woke people who call themselves conservatives. And some of them don't, though. They call themselves right wing. And they distinguish that conservatives and right wing are different. But it's woke people. So the whole suite of behaviors, beliefs, even the deep metaphysical constructs underneath those beliefs. And as you recently pointed out, I think the psychology that generates those beneath all of that, the cluster B personality disorders.
Don't make fun of Peterson. He helped me make my bed.
Are presenting and psychopathologies, psychopathy itself sometimes, all of that kind of feeds upward into this concept of woke, which I think we, can talk pretty fruitfully about. But
When? Can we get to that part?
I don't believe it can only be presented through, left-wing causes. You can present it in terms of right-wing causes or religious causes or other causes, because it's the pathological expression of an ideology or of a belief structure that ultimately is woke. And so this term is confused.
Andrew, your F&F appearances are better than whatever. Need to see you back. After Gary the numbers guy inevitably stabs Myron Gaines in the back, then I will be happy to go back and hop on F&F with Myron and all them guys. I love Myron, by the way, but I just can't stand that guy. He's obviously a 2-bit criminal, and I just don't want any with people like that.
People, it's angered people. I decided to try to put
Who
lights
is it angered?
Once that guy started trying to cancel people online and call their jobs and I was like, man, I'm not going to deal with anybody who's got this guy around. He's like represents everything. Guys like Myron, hey, I don't know why the guy's around.
Well, this is the thing. This is what has I'll use this word. This is a heavy word for the beginning of a conversation, but this is what has dismayed me. I knew it would anger the people that it applies to, in my opinion, because who would want to be called woke right, first of all? And second of all, it limits their ability to interact because they have a label that's not a good label that sticks to them. But what I'm dismayed over is that almost I hate to use this word so glibly, but what I refer to sort of as a bookmark as elite MAGA, or the more who's who of the conservative movement seems entirely captured by this as well. And they also became upset, saw me as a turncoat and a traitor against the movement.
One of the things that I think, you tell me what you think about this, but I don't think we should name any names in this podcast, if that's
fine.
okay with you.
That's totally fine.
Okay, we can talk about why that is as we progress. Okay, good. I mean, I wasn't going to make that a cut and dried rule, but I have my reasons. So you just referred to some comments I made on Fox News and also to some degree on Rogan, talking about, and I've actually written a fair on this. There's been this idea that the extremes of political belief meet, hey?
Yeah.
And so
Talking about horseshoe theory.
let's hash that out a little bit. You seem to find useful or possibly accept this additional diagnostic distinction, which would be cluster B or dark tetrad.
That's right. I actually wrote about this. I don't know if you know, in 2020.
That specifically.
In December, yes, in 2020. I called the article something like, and it was extremely interesting. But of course, and by them, of course, I'd been reading the postmodern social justice left phenomenon.
There we go.
How do I fit in with my society? And so I write this long essay. I got in trouble for this. I had him publish it on Christmas. I was so excited about it. Christmas Day, we put this out. And, very long essay explaining that this is what I see as at the root, because I was trying to diagnose and explain to people what nobody was calling woke yet at the time, at the end of 2020, or maybe we had just begun to call woke. We were trying to diagnose and explain this social justice left phenomenon. And so I put out this essay and said, I think at the root, underneath the whole thing, there's the same psychopathologies that motivated people like Lenin and Stalin and all this. And I didn't have the psychological chops. I was aware of dark triad or tetrad terminology. I did know quite a bit about the cluster B personality disorders because I knew some people.
Who gives a shit? What is the woke right?
Those are psychopathologies, like illnesses. That's a matter of have to accept. And so does conservatism. These are games that can integrate a large number of people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's a slightly different function, right? Because now it's like if you and I decide to play basketball, we're going to produce a hierarchy within that set of rules, right? Whatever set of rules you lay out, people are going to be differentially able at implementing.
That's right.
Right? Any set of rules.
That's right.
Right. So, for example, if you were in a gym and you had school children roll, and you had a competition, you'd get a hierarchy of rolling speed.
Yeah.
And then the top rollers would be the high status people within that game. So you can organize systems of knowledge so that they're ground rules for a game, and then you produce a hierarchy. Now, hierarchical position has value.
Yeah.
So the higher you are in a social hierarchy, the more positive
Off of it that created the squad. A lot of people know that history, at least, so it should be, germane. So the generation of a localized cult is sort of this hypothesis, and the ideology grows out of the desire for the people at the top of that, who are parasitizing the hierarchy, to create their kind of internal nested hierarchy where they're on top of the whole thing. And the way they do that is by saying the big system is gamed. The big system is rigged. The big system is fake. And
It is rigged and it is fake. Peterson, oh, James, your skin, it's hanging off your bones. Later speaking to Agents Peterson, it's like something was wearing James.
we have a secret truth about how things really work. And now you enter into the Gnostic kind of, I don't know, even metaphysical.
I don't know how the he's tying all this together. This is the biggest crock of I've ever seen. I don't even need to watch any more of it.